Thank you for joining me for this brief tutorial focused on managing pipette devices within the ArtelWare application. I have a lot of great information to share with you, so let's go ahead and get started. Prior to creating my pipette entry, I have already created the pipette's owner and location. Now let's explore how we add a pipette. There are a few different ways on how to add a pipette into the ArtelWare software application, but before I get started, let me just make a note that we've made the work easy for you. We have preloaded a pipette catalog that has a majority of the pipette brands, manufacturers, and models already preloaded into it. Now, if you don't see the pipette that you're working with in our catalog, there's a really easy way to add that, but I'll go ahead and cover that in a little bit. Now, as I mentioned, there's a couple of different ways to add a pipette into the ArtelWare application. The first is to click on the Add Device shortcut that's on the Get Started bar. Another way is to navigate to the configuration screen of the software and click on the Pipette section. But for today, I'm going to go ahead and select the Add Device shortcut on the Get Started bar. Once I select Add Device, I'll make sure that Pipette is highlighted, and then I'll click OK. Now, in this new Pipette screen, it's important to note that any field that has a red asterisk is a required field. So the first field that we have to complete is the selection of the manufacturer and the model. Let's go ahead and click on the ellipsis to see what we have. Now, the way that you select your pipette manufacturer is by clicking on the drop-down that you see at the top left side corner of the screen. You can navigate through this drop-down, and you can see that there's a lot of pipette manufacturers, again, that are already listed for you. We're going to select Eppendorf today because I'm working with an Eppendorf reference pipette. Now, once you select the manufacturer, all the models that are shown are distinct to that manufacturer that you've selected. Sometimes it can be hard to navigate through that list. So what I like to do is I like to click on the max volume column header so that it sorts everything in order for me. So today I'm using a 2 to 20 microliter Research Eppendorf pipette. So I'll go ahead and select Research. It's a variable pipette. As I mentioned, 2 to 20 microliters. The catalog ID that you see there, that's the catalog ID for Eppendorf. We'll go ahead and select OK. And then once you select OK, these next three fields will automatically populate: the ISO device type, the number of channels, and the volume range. Let's go ahead and scroll down and see what other fields we have to complete. The Pipette ID field is the next field that we need to complete. So there are a couple of things that you have to note about the Pipette ID field. Number one, special characters and spaces are not accepted, but it's okay if you forget because the software will remind you. The second thing about the Pipette ID field is that once you've entered it and you click Save at the bottom of the screen, you cannot edit nor change the Pipette ID. So you'll want to make sure that you're very deliberate about the Pipette ID that you've entered in. Now, your Pipette ID can be the serial number that's etched on the pipette itself, or it can be an internal asset ID. The Pipette ID that I'm using today is an internal asset ID number, and I'm going to go ahead and add an underscore B to its ID. The description field is an optional field, so we'll go ahead and leave that alone. Now, the serial number field is also optional, but the serial number is different than the Pipette ID itself. The serial number is a unique identifier that's etched on the pipette itself. So let me go ahead and populate that information in. Next, we have to select the location for this pipette. Now, what ArtelWare will do is automatically assign the location that's listed first alphabetically in your location list, but I'm going to go ahead and select a different location, and then I'm also going to select an owner for this pipette. Now again, before I click Save, really important thing to note is I want to confirm that that Pipette ID is exactly what I'd like for it to be. And in this particular case, I'm just going to make one quick change, and I'll verify everything that I've entered in yet one more time, and then I'll click Save. Now, ArtelWare has the ability to generate barcode ID labels, and they're really wonderful. They help make the calibration process really efficient, especially if you've got a lot of pipettes at your facility. Usually what I do is once I've created a pipette, I'll go ahead and create a barcode ID label by clicking on the printer icon and selecting Pipette Label. And now I've got a beautiful barcode ID label that I can attach to my pipette. Now remember earlier I talked about what happens if you have a pipette model that's not in the catalog. So let's say that you go and you look at the manufacturer list. The pipette that I'm working with today is a Nichiryo pipette, a Nichipette, but I don't see Nichiryo listed as a manufacturer in this catalog. So from here, I can easily add a new pipette model by clicking on the plus sign to add a new pipette model to the catalog. And from here, I can go ahead and add the pipette manufacturer and the model of the pipette catalog ID. Now, that's a field that is required, and that's Nichiryo's pipette catalog ID. If you don't happen to have that ID, it's okay. You can just populate that with any type of field that you'd like. It's not important for how ArtelWare will calibrate your pipettes. The ISO device type is important. Most pipettes are ISO device type A. They're air displacement pipettes. The number of channels is important, as well as whether or not this is a fixed or variable pipette. In this particular case, this is a variable volume pipette. And with a variable volume pipette, you have to enter in the lowest volume and the highest volume that it can run. So this is a 10 to 100 microliter variable pipette. Now we're not quite finished, so you might be really tempted to click that Add Pipette to Catalog button. However, you need to enter some manufacturer specifications. So before I click on this Enter Manufacturer Specifications, you might be wondering, where do I get those from? Well, usually you get those from the pipette manufacturer website. Oftentimes, pipette manufacturers will list their pipette specifications on their websites or in their operator manuals. When you have a variable volume pipette, you have to enter the manufacturer specifications for the lowest range and the highest range at minimum. If you have the mid-range manufacturer specification, you can certainly enter that as well. So let's go ahead and click on Enter Manufacturer Specifications. The lowest range volume for this pipette is 10. The pipette manufacturer lists inaccuracy spec as 0.7 and imprecision spec as 0.45. So I'll go ahead and select Add for that. Now remember, this is a variable volume pipette, so I need to add the lowest volume manufacturer spec as well as the highest volume manufacturer spec. So I'll go ahead and enter 100 and enter the manufacturer spec for that as well. And then once I've entered in all of my manufacturer specifications, I'll go ahead and select OK, and I'll select Add Pipette to Catalog. And by default, you'll see that now ArtelWare shows the manufacturer that I just added. And if I click on the manufacturer dropdown, you'll see that Nichiryo is now added there as well. Now, when you're adding pipettes to ArtelWare, we've built in a couple of things to help make your job a bit easier. Let's say that you have a lot of pipettes that are all the same type of pipette. So for example, if I go to the configuration screen and I go to my pipettes list, perhaps I've got 9 more pipettes that are just like this Eppendorf research pipette that I entered in earlier. You have this wonderful clone icon, and what it will do is it will bring over all of the pipette information for you, and all that you'll need to do is make sure that the pipette ID is properly assigned, and anything else that's on this bottom half of the screen is properly assigned. Now you can change things on the top half as well, but again, that clone icon really saves you a lot of time. Also within the same screen, you have the option to export your pipette list. So if you wanted a list of your pipettes, which would also include when they're last calibrated and when their next calibration date is due, you can certainly do that. You can also choose to print a full-size printout or a PDF of your pipette inventory from the screen as well. You've got a couple of different icons that are here. You have a filter icon, a refresh icon. You've also got an add icon, and you've got an edit icon as well. So let's go ahead and talk about these other icons over on the right-hand side, because you'll notice there's a deactivate pipette icon there. If you have a pipette that you need to deactivate because you've sent it off to a service center because it needs some repair that you're not able to do in-house, you can certainly take that pipette and deactivate it. Once that pipette's returned to you, you can come back to this configuration pipette screen. You can click on the filter icon and click on Show Inactive Items, select your inactive device, and reactivate it. Now, the reason why deactivation is important is because you don't want that pipette to show up as being due because it's out at the service center. When it comes back, of course, it will be due again. But while it's at the service center, maybe you don't want to have it show as due. But let's say the service center returned that pipette to you and they said it's too old to repair. You need to purchase a new one. In that particular case, you can deactivate and then subsequently retire a pipette. So let me show you how to do that. Again, in the configuration screen, in the pipettes section, if you select the pipette that you wish to retire, you can click on the Deactivate Selected Pipette icon and say yes. And you'll notice that this pipette is showing as inactive because I selected the filter to show inactive items. If you don't see that pipette showing as inactive, just go ahead and click on that filter and go ahead and select Show Inactive Items. Now, once you've deactivated the pipette, there's one more step to retiring it. You have to select the pipette and then click on the Retire Selected Pipette icon. Now, the moment you click on that Retire Pipette, it's very, very important. The software is going to ask you, are you sure that retiring is what you want to do? The moment you retire anything within the ArtelWare application, you cannot unretire it, and that includes the retiring of pipettes. So the good news is you can still see all of your historical calibration data for that pipette, but that pipette will never show up as due, and it's essentially being removed from your inventory list, if you will, as being an active device. So the software is just asking you a very, very important question, and it's letting you know that retiring a pipette permanently disables it in the software. Again, you can still access those results though. So we're going to go ahead and select OK. And now you can see the status of the pipette has changed from inactive to retired. Okay, that concludes our brief tutorial. Do you have additional questions? Please contact us at 1-800-225-4034 option 3 or at support@aicompanies.com. Thank you.